Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Chad Morgan, and all the recent additions to all our favorite franchises these days have repeatedly shown that they care not for canon, care not for fans, care not for anything that made those franchises what they are today. And it's become self-evident at this point when they don't even get the basis of their words correct. The Timeless Children is a great aspect of that when it comes to Doctor Who. A great example of it where showrunner did not care what made Doctor Who special. But we have another example of a writer for one of these big franchises, Star Wars, who specifically says he does not like canon hampering his writing. We got this article here from Bounding the Comments that puts it all together. Obi-Wan Kenobi writer feels like he was handicapped by adhering to Star Wars canon, showing complete disregard to canon anyways. We all knew that they didn't like canon. They've called it alt-right, they've called it misogynist, they called it all these horrible things. In The Boys, they specifically had a character who called out canon breaks, and that happened to be the Yahtzee, and then there were mainstream and Access Media articles that came out and said all these horrible things about anyone who cared about canon. This is a strange shift that I can't believe is happening these last few years, where canon has become a bad word. A canon is a basic part of what it means to be a cohesive narrative. And anyone who's worth their salt as a writer should understand it. A canon breaking scenario is like a level 2 of a plot hole. Everybody knows day one of writing school that you've got to avoid plot holes at any cost. And a canon break is a larger scale version of a plot hole. If you don't want to keep within the canon of a specific franchise, don't write for a specific franchise. It's that simple. If you feel hampered by the responsibilities get dictated to you by the franchise that you're writing in, make your own stuff. Make something original. It's that simple. It's the franchise for a reason. Those canon moments that define it, they're what people love. It's because those things exist that make a cohesive narrative and make a world in which fans have come to know and love. And if you're not okay with keeping consistent with that canon, make original content. That's the thing that I always am going to advocate for in situations like these. If these people don't like these franchises, if they don't like sticking to the basic rules of writing when it comes to developing these franchises, make original content. If you don't like the original diversity of a franchise, make original content. But they are so creatively bankrupt and so lazy that they cannot fathom doing something that creative founded. They have to be as lazy as possible time and time again, and that laziness feeds into this canon breaking situation that this Obi-Wan Kenobi writer is referring to. It's like hard, guys. It puts in work, and I have to be like creative and smart to keep it within the canon, and that's hard. I just want an easy paycheck. That is the mentality that we've seen from these writers again and again. But let's get into the specific comments that this writer had. He said, it has to go through such a rigorous, does that fit the canon? And I feel like it's bittersweet. Yes, it should go through a rigorous, does it fit the canon? I don't believe that situation happened with Kenobi whatsoever. Whatever rigorous process that he's referring to was not all that rigorous, because Kenobi was a constant canon break. From what I've heard, I have not checked out that show, but I know enough about it. Detailed breakdowns from people who love it, people who hate it, to get a more nuanced approach to it. And it's just not something that I'm wanting to check out in any way, shape, or form. But just from what I've seen, there are enormous canon breaks. The simple fact of Leia meeting Obi-Wan Kenobi is a massive canon break. And so what rigorous process did the writing go through to avoid making that a situation? Any rigorous canon adherence to regime would have said, oh, no, Leia can't be in this. So I can't imagine how simple these rigorous process was actually at Lucasfilm. It's like, oh, you got the guy's name right. Good job. Good job. That sounds very, very rigorous. And it feels like bittersweet. The reason that happens is because people care. But it also kind of doesn't allow sometimes things to adventure beyond where maybe they should to tell a better story. Yes, people care, and that's important. That's what makes these franchises amazing, makes them big, makes them so powerful. The juggernauts that they are today is because people care, and canon is the reason why people have gotten invested in these universes. If you can't tell a good story within the parameters of canon, again, you should not be writing for that franchise. It's that simple. I don't care about certain franchises, so I would never go into them and write about them. And because I would be terrible at adhering to the canon, while other franchises like Star Trek, I would be laser focused on keeping canon correct. Doctor Who, I'd be laser focused on keeping canon correct. So if you don't care about that franchise, if you don't care about keeping the canon straight, if you're not creative enough to create a good story within those parameters, then maybe you're just not a good writer, because every writer has to deal with restrictions, and sometimes restrictions birth some of the most creative opportunities, the creative stories that were not previously an option. So if you're not talented enough to make a good story within the restraints of canon, original content. Original content. I'm sick of the endless reboot, the endless sequel, the endless remake. Make original content. That is the end-all be-all solution to all these issues that we're having. Just leave our franchises alone if you're not willing to stick to canon, if you're not okay with the diversity of the original franchise, if it just show some creativity, show a backbone, show an intelligence that you haven't shown to date. Make original content and make this better story that you're referring to. But they're never going to, because that takes work. So it can sometimes really handicap what I think are better narrative options. Again, it may be a better narrative option for an original story, but the moment that it breaks canon, it ceases to become a good narrative option, because you break a cohesive narrative when you break canon. So no matter what you think is a better story, it is not a better narrative option. Using those specific words, yes, you are breaking the narrative. I don't get why this is so complicated for modern day Hollywood. It's really quite sad that this is such a difficult concept for modern writers to fathom in the modern day. And finishing off, and so I was frustrated sometimes, not a lot, but I just felt like it wasn't conducive to the story. I doubt this person really worried about canon all that much in the actual writing process, because Kenobi cares not for canon. That entire show is one giant canon break. I'm certain that this writer is merely saying these things in response to the criticism that was made upon the show's release. No actual canon adhesion was a priority in the writer's room for Kenobi, so this hamstringing that he talks about, I don't think actually occurred in the writer's room. It is merely a response to the fans coming out and saying this show is breaking canon at every possible opportunity. It's merely response. It's all a lie. This is one big lie to cover up the fact that this person cares not for the canon. The canon is the basic of all narrative structures. It's comprised of everything: the writers, the characters, the words, the world, the narrative, the story. If you contradict the story, that's a problem, and it ceases to become a good story. Everybody knows, don't make plot holes. Canon break, again, is a higher level of a plot hole. So any writer who has any sort of intelligence, any sort of skill, would know that breaking canon is not an option, is not a good idea. It breaks a cohesive narrative. And any creative individual coming into a franchise can find a way to make it work within the restraints that have made this narrative what it is. But we do not have talented writers. We do not have creative writers in Hollywood these days. It is merely people looking for an easy paycheck who are frightened of the concept of original content. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.